Sean Payton has quit as coach of New Orleans. He gone. Sean Payton out of there, exiting stage right as the coach after 16 seasons in the catbird seat. The signs were all there, all the anecdotal evidence that Payton was getting the footsie rub that he wanted out of there. I got to get out of here, and he was ghosting people in the Saints organization, and he turned in his resignation. Not retiring, he's resigning, he's exiting stage right from the sidelines, and also is a heavy hand in terms of picking the players for the Saints. Now, Sean Payton is 58 years old. He was all over the map, a very bizarre news conference, but he says he does not plan to coach a team in 2022. And since he has 3 years remaining on his contract, the Saints would have to agree to trade his ass to get compensation in return if he did want to return to coaching another team. And he spent 90 minutes droning on and on during a news conference announcing that he was a quitter when it comes to the Saints, and he was leaving with time left on his contract. And so he chatted with the reporters, did the whole thing there, ranting and raving. And the company line is that Payton is simply burned out and he needs to recharge his batteries. Is there something more nefarious going on, though? And let us discuss. So the question is, did Sean Payton leave a sinking ship to whoever takes over in New Orleans? And the answer is yes. Yes, 100%. Now, my observations, you've got arithmetic, a knapsack, and voodoo. And we will lock all of these things together. Now, number one. So we know the story. Sean Payton got 1 season of life without Drew Brees, and that was enough. That was enough to burn the man out on coaching the Saints. It gave him dizziness, headaches, nausea, and confusion watching the stumble bums play quarterback in New Orleans last season, which is still this season, but the Saints have been eliminated, so on to the next. He threw in the sponge. So let me make my elevator pitch, all right, elevator pitch as to why this happened. So if you look at all of the circumstantial evidence, New Orleans this year went 9-8. They were a baseline team. Now, they had a chance at the playoffs going into the final week, but that was more of a byproduct of the NFL adding a 7th team in the NFC. Nobody said the Saints were a good team. And Sean Payton's reputation was as an offensive prodigy. And that had started to erode. It was being sullied. It's being sullied. And many were whispering in hushed tones that Payton without Drew Brees has been exposed. He's been exposed as a fraud. Now, what's the evidence on that? The Saints offensively ranked 28th in total offense. There's only 32 teams in the NFL. They were 28th. The Saints were the epitome of garbage at matriculating the ball down the field. You look at the salary cap. We'll get to that in a bit here. The rotting roster. You do the math, and certainly Payton did the arithmetic, and he said, wait a minute. So people are starting to question my genius. The Saints are not in a good spot right now. And it's kind of like the arsonist that starts the fire and then runs out of the building. I don't know what happened. I got no idea. And so he's suffering, Sean Payton, from constipation. You got to be one step ahead of the implosion. You got to be one step ahead. It doesn't talk. It screams. When the going gets tough, Sean Payton hightailed it out of town. He's like, I stuck around for 1 year, and that's it. And he's getting a pass on this, which is bizarre. Because, like Bill Belichick, it has not gone great for the Patriots. They did make the playoffs in year 2 post-Tom Brady in New England, but it's not like the Patriots are a juggernaut post-Tom Brady. But Bill Belichick, there's no indication that Belichick's going to wander away. Now, secondly, there are many contributing factors, as there always are, but one of the big ones happened under the radar, right? Under the radar. We mentioned this in a previous episode of the show. There is big, if you look at it like a game show board, like you're playing tic-tac-toe, there's a blank space in the middle at the quarterback position. And Payton, we know he lost his knapsack filled with stardust when Drew Brees decided to go do whatever the hell you call what he does on NBC. I don't know what that is, just another jock talking. It's just gibberish. But from what we are hearing, Sean Payton put out feelers to kind of get a pulse, a lay of the land, if you will, on who wants to come be the quarterback of the Saints. And he used intermediaries to gauge the interest, if you will, put your finger in the air and see which direction the wind is blowing. When it comes to Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson coming to eat gumbo and crawfish in Louisiana. And apparently he didn't get a favorable response. And so Payton made a strategic decision to gain, for him individually, a competitive advantage. So instead of waiting for the Saints to go 6-11 or 5-12, he said, I don't want to be here when this thing falls back to bedrock and they got to call in the paramedics. I don't want to be part of this. And so he activated the escape hatch, preserving his reputation as much as you can. Now, the final point. All right, so we are at the part of the story where Sean Payton has cleaned out his office and gone to higher ground. So what grade is the Saints job? It's open. It's open. It's an open head coaching job. There's only 32 of those in the NFL. So if you were to rank the Saints job based on a letter grade, it gets the date. The Saints get the date. It's a D job. New Orleans is a small market. It's not easy to get big-name free agents to come there. You are limited on a quick turnaround. The roster is, I would say, slightly above average on offense. It's certainly more subpar, leaning that direction. They're lacking, other than two guys, they don't have a lot of playmakers there. There is a gigantic black hole, as we mentioned, at the quarterback position. Drew Brees is not walking through that door. He ain't walking through that door. The Saints, as a franchise, are the headless horsemen until they find a passable quarterback. And Sean Payton was the one picking the groceries, right? That's the Komodo dragon in the room. He was the one calling the shots. So now they need some voodoo to hire the right coach. And Sean Payton endorsed Dennis Allen. We had mentioned Dennis Allen is the de facto coach in waiting there in the Bayou, and former Oakland Raiders coach who was as much responsible for the Raiders moving to Vegas as anybody because he was that bad, Dennis Allen. He's in the pole position. Now, it's not guaranteed Dennis Allen's going to get the job. There's other candidates, Aaron Glenn, Lombardi, Joe Lombardi, who's been bouncing around as an assistant coach. Eric Bieniemy are also said to be in the running, and a few other names. But and now for the other part of the story, and that is the salary cap. And many a pundit that don't know their tuchus from their head are ranting and raving. Oh, my God, they're pearl clutching. The Saints are projected to be $71 million over the salary cap. That's a big deal. Oh, it's such a big deal. Oh, they're screwed. And, of course, I get bug-eyed when I see this. I get a little bug-eyed there. I am and will forever be a salary cap truther. And I recommend you come to my side. So all the Saints have to do is they have to hire someone who's a little savvy with numbers. Get creative. The salary cap is something you can move around, right? You can move around the numbers on this. You restructure contracts. You turn salaries to roster bonuses into signing bonuses, blah, 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 blah. Add voidable years. NFL salary cap management, it's kind of like sorcery. It's more like sorcery. So some people say it's a science with math, but you can cook the books, right? You can absolutely cook the books. And they may end up trading a couple of players this offseason to make it all work, but you're not going to get rid of the entire, all the core guys on the team, but you might get rid of one of them. But you can manipulate the numbers, right? Manipulate numbers. And if you go down the rabbit hole far enough, you can make it work. All right, now just to prove that Sean Payton said all the things we said he said, here is Payton, some highlights from a 90-minute journey with Sean Payton there. He says that he is not quite sure what's behind door number 2.
Honestly, as I sit here today, I don't know what's next. I've read the reports and I understand. I've not spoken to anyone from a media outlet relative to doing television or radio. Maybe that opportunity arises, but every time I read something that says like he's in line for this job, I'll call my agent, Don, and I'll say, Don, did you hear something? Because I have not heard anything. And that's okay. I think I'd like to do that. I think I'd be pretty good at it.
Yeah. What he said right there is a lie. From what I understand, let's just say intermediaries. He might have been not talking directly to the people that run television networks, but let's just say people that might be middlemen have had conversations. So I think he's lying right there. I believe beyond a reasonable doubt. Here is more from Sean Payton, who says he is not looking back. He has nothing to be upset about his time in New Orleans.
It was a personal decision of feeling like, it's time, but not with any regret. There's some excitement, like, all right, what next? And I honestly don't know what's next.
Yeah, I think he does. I think he'll sign a 3-year contract to do television, and then he will go coach another NFL team, which makes sense. He's got 3 years left on his Saints contract, so you can crunch the numbers in your head there and say, okay, you have 3 years left until you're free. You can go to any team you want. Maybe you only go TV 2 years. You don't like TV, and then Jerry Jones says he'll buy out the last year of your contract with the Saints. You go coach the Cowboys. All right, but wait, there's more. Now, Sean Payton said, I've not spoken to anybody about a media job, TV job, but he did admit he'd like to be in the boob tube.
I'd like to try TV, and I've had some opportunities. I talked to Drew a little bit about it last night. I don't know that part of it that well, but that'd be something that would interest me. And so I think the hardest part is sitting in your chair saying, wait a minute, you haven't talked with a network yet. You haven't talked with, not a word. Hopefully that opportunity comes.
Again, he'll lie right into the camera. It's just insanity. It's just absolutely insane. I'm sure he just walked away from the Saints and all that money and had nothing else lined up. He's just a big dummy. What? Come on. What are we doing?